human trafficking. Now, according to 2023 Trafficking in Persons report from the U.S. State Department, Nigeria has been identified as a significant source and destination country for trafficking, with vulnerable populations being exploited for various purposes, including forced labor and sexual exploitation. Now, the report highlights the complex interplay of factors contributing to this crisis, such as economic instability, corruption, and weak enforcement of laws designed to combat trafficking. The need for comprehensive strategies and also collaborative efforts to combat this issue has never been more urgent. In West Africa, the situation is particularly dire, with trafficking networks operating across borders, preying on marginalized communities. While the Nigerian government has made some progress in tackling trafficking, significant challenges remain, including insufficient resources, lack of victim support services, and the need for greater awareness among the public. And now today we will be joined by New Central Special Correspondent on Investigative Journalism, Marshall-Anthoni Ononye, who is in the process of releasing a highly anticipated investigative piece on child trafficking in Nigeria. In this case, the mother of two teenage boys in Lagos. Now, the boys were made, or rather, they who reside in Ikota resettlement estate in Lagos were reportedly lured and abducted by unidentified individuals who promised them jobs, but instead have trafficked them to Ghana. Now, this reminds us of a case from here in Nigeria, in the Niger Delta, where we had a certain phrase coined out of the entire thing called Hustle Kingdom. Well, let's take a look at Marshall's piece here, and when we get back, we'll be having that conversation with him.
We arrive at Ikota Resettlement Estate in Lagos State, where Mrs. Rosemary Nenna Duriji was waiting to speak to us about the disappearance of her son Daniel Duriji, who's been missing for over 3 weeks.
How are you, madam? I'm fine, sir.
Mrs. Duriji, a petty trader who deals in second-hand clothing in Ikota, says her son Daniel and his friend Zeal left with a stranger who had promised to land them acting roles in a movie under production. Daniel and Zeal were to return that evening. 3 weeks after that day, they both are still missing.
This is where you stay, right?
Yes, sir. This was.
With your son?
Yes, sir.
How many of you live in this apartment?
4 of my children and myself, so making 5.
Was it taken from this apartment?
Actually, I was outside doing some things in my business. One of his friends came. He told him that they are going out to go and act film. Not to know that this is the word that the man that want to take them to Ghana, that put in their mind that they should deceive the parents, not to tell the parents the truth where they are going. My son did not tell me where he's going. He deceived me, telling me that he want to go. They are going to where they are shooting film. If you know what happened, they are telling us that they are right now in Ghana. I said Ghana. Not to know that the man that took them to Ghana have already made arrangement and tell them what they will tell the parents, how they will deceive the parents, that they should not tell the parents truth where they are going to. That's how we see everything. Since 3 weeks till now, we keep on looking for these children. Before you know what happened, my son keep on showing his picture at Instagram, telling us that they are at Ghana and they are crying and telling us that we should help them out where they are. That where they are, that place is not suiting them. They are not feeling comfortable. And these people keep on maltreating them. The one that makes us angry is that they keep on beating them. My children is crying to the extent that they kick my son and my son fainted. And on the ground, on the floor where he fainted, they keep on beating him, beating him. In fact, I don't know what I will do. I don't know what to say.
Daniel's elder sister, Miracle, says she misses her brother and wishes he is found and returned in one piece.
The day they got missing, that night, we could call them on normal call. But the next day in the morning, normal call wasn't going again. It was just...
And they've been sending you messages?
Yes, first message is when he started communicating with me directly. He said, Miracle, can I help us? So we go die here. That they were beating them back to back. They even beat him up till he fainted. No, they don't give them food that satisfies them.
I decided to pay a visit to Mrs. Camelia Olumma Ndoaguibe, Zill's mother, to find out her own story.
Her son and your son are missing?
Yes.
So how did it happen? What happened?
Okay, on that fateful day, that was 2 weeks ago. Tomorrow, Friday, make it 3 weeks. Then I was by this, let's say around after 10, he was telling mommy that they said he has a job
10 o'clock in the night.
In the morning, 10 a.m. in the morning, that the agent said they should come around 12. I said, okay, you're getting a job. He said at Lekki Plaza or Lekki Pizza. I said, okay. Before you go to that place, I want to give me the number of the agent. Have you paid the agent? He said, yes, I've paid 3,000 naira. I said, okay. Now, give me, yes, I don't have phone. Give me the agent's number, give me the agent phone, and write the place you are going to so that I will know in case anything happens. So this is how we are start running up and down. Since that very day now.
Having reported the case of their missing children at the Alagbon police station in Lagos State, these two women continue to plead to the authorities to do all they can and ensure the safe return of Daniel and Zeal, who are both believed to be held against their will somewhere in Ghana by some individuals whose motives are still unclear.
All I need from the government that they should help me and rescue my son out.
Help me, I'm a widow. It's only him I have as a son. They should please help us.
Nobody is balanced, everybody is thinking here and there. I'm even supposed to go to school, but the whole situation is just turning everybody around.
Recently, there have been reports of increasing cases of abduction within these areas by individuals who pose as recruitment agents with promises of lucrative jobs only to have their unsuspecting victims sold into some kind of modern-day slavery where they are subjected to all kinds of inhuman treatment while serving their masters or madams, mostly in neighboring West African countries. These victims sometimes end up in forced prostitution, harsh domestic labor, and fraud. In rare cases, some of these victims make it back home, sometimes through government interventions, and sometimes they are never seen again by their families. For News Central, Marshall-Anthoni Ononye.
And joining us now to discuss this further and his findings and what exactly started this, what exactly prompted this investigation. We have with us our correspondent joining us live now via video chat. It's none other than Marshall-Anthoni Ononye. Marshall, many thanks for joining us. We appreciate you for doing this with us. Good morning to you. Very heartfelt piece, I would say. But let me start by asking, what inspired, in you going on this journey and just starting to take this piece and talking to the mothers.
Good morning. Well, if you ask what inspired it, it will be the hunger and needs to solve certain crime. Well, we got this call from these troubled parents. They called out to say they were in search of their children, and that was what prompted us to move into action to investigate the whereabouts of these children. And so we got down to Ikota and met with these parents, and we started asking the right questions as to how did this happen. And then we found out that these guys, they had this set of people who would come around every once in a while to pose as agents, recruitment agents, and they'd offer juicy and lucrative jobs to certain unsuspecting youths within that community, and then pick them up before you know what's happening. They go beyond the borders into neighboring African countries.
We had one instance from Delta State a couple of weeks ago where young boys were trafficked from across the country to Delta State and made to perhaps maybe endeavor in some kind of clandestine online, I'm not exactly sure what it is. Now, in this case, what could these boys have been trafficked for? What kind of labor could it be? Do you have any idea?
Well, information trickling in has it that these guys could be made to get involved in some fraudulent activities, online fraud, in our local parlance, mostly popularly known as Yahoo. So they get them to certain locations and then conscript them into carrying out some fraudulent activities online, thereby they themselves, the perpetrators, evading or keeping their identity secret, and then they don't get identified or they don't get traced. So these victims whom they conscript, so to speak, would now be the focus of investigation. Peradventure, the identities are leaked online. So they get into all kinds of online fraud.
And has the attention of NATIP been brought to the situation? If it has been, what has been done to the regard of people being trafficked across the border here within the West African confines?
Well, the police are already investigating this particular case and several other cases too. We hear that some people have been arrested. Investigations are ongoing, but we also do know that NATIP and sometimes NITCOM get involved in these kind of cases. On this particular case, no, NATIP hasn't been informed yet, but you can be rest assured that NATIP has got a lot of these kind of cases in their kitty. And also we hear that Interpol is also being contacted on this particular case.
Marshall, I have to ask, just watching the snippets there from your piece and then hearing the second mother, Zill's mother, saying that she doesn't have a phone, and then she asked her son to give the telephone number of the agent to her so she could be certain that at least she has a contact of that of her son or who she's going to work with. It makes me wonder about the role or the contributing factor that is our socio-economic situation that we find ourselves in, the soaring cost of living crisis, and how it plays into, the trafficking of vulnerable people and the vulnerable people of our population into such incidents like we've seen.
Yes, it also makes me wonder. You talked about you cited the case of Zeal, whose mother hasn't got a phone, and her economic status and social status. The case of Daniel as well. The sister made us to understand that in the day they got missing or the day they got abducted, Daniel's elder sister, was in touch with the boy. And he was saying he was supposed to, this is a boy who's just been offered admission into University of Calabar. And he said he'll rather go work than to have his parents spend money to send him to the university to study. And he was asking in a chat, he asked his sister, what will come out of that education after mommy spends all of these money, So he said he would rather go hustle than go get to be a student in the University of Calabar.
It's very interesting how education is always very shunned at. Like it is a tool to for economic advancement, whatever it is. You must at least have some level of education for you to be advanced. But then when you hear a statement like this, it begs to just wonder what has happened to our educational system. But away from that, you said something in your submission earlier about how these agents come to areas like these, and they're known to come to those places like these. Besides the families that you spoke to, were you able to speak to residents who were able to identify these agents? Were you able to speak to the agents themselves, or at least track down one of them?
Yes, not agents, but yes, we were able to speak to several other residents, and we were able to speak to several other actors or people that are expected to be very instrumental to the investigation. But we cannot give all of the information we have because, like I said, it's what you have is just a snippet of the entire package. And because investigation is ongoing, we cannot let out most of the information we have. But yes, we spoke with several other persons who gave us some information. Whether or not some agents are being tracked, I might not be able to give out that information at this moment, but be rest assured that there are several other information on this particular piece.
And I have to ask you, because we're pretty much out of time, but when does this premiere? When are we going to get the full, at least first episode, so that our viewers can be well prepared to catch it?